யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேடீர்.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
The title of this paper is Thirukkural in English from Ellis to Sundaram. This is a close study of 4 translations of Thirukkural. None may question now the validity of the following statement by Albert Schweitzer on Thirukkural. He says, there hardly exists in the literature of the world a collection of maxims in which we find so much of lofty wisdom, that its excellence has been understood and acknowledged by several generations of scholars is evident from the many commentaries on it, as well as from the numerous translations of it into English and other foreign languages. The first English rendering by Kindersley, though of select couplets only, came out as early as 1794 and since then there has been a steady stream of translations, good, bad and indifferent. Of these, the ones by F.W. Ellis, G.U. Pope, V.V.S. Iyer and P.S. Sundaram have been chosen here for close scrutiny, not because they are the best in all respects, but because, being representative of diverse types of translation, they reveal certain characteristic merits and limitations. F.W. Ellis brings to bear upon his incomplete translation done in 1812 a scholarship impressively wide-ranging and knowledge of Tamil literature incredibly extensive. G.U. Pope has made the most heroic attempt of transforming the Kurals into English heroic couplets. A resurgence of nationalism during the struggle for independence forced a native scholar like V.V.S. Iyer to undertake its translation with a view to highlighting an Indian classic. Professor P.S. Sundaram's claim is that his work fulfills the long felt need for a modern version, as many of its predecessors are in an archaic language. What Ellis aims at is more an interpretation and a commentary than a literal word-to-word translation, giving as it does a free metrical version of each couplet, followed by a critical, extremely learned analysis of the text and an illustration of the notes and scholarly disquisitions on the mythology, philosophical and religious systems, and the beliefs, customs and cultural traits of the Indian society. His rendering of the very first couplet is indicative of his keener interest in bringing out the greatness of the original than in being naively faithful or needlessly pompous. The first Kural, அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு, is an acid test for translators and commentators because it means much more than what it states, makes a most contentious statement as though it were a universally accepted fact and validates it on the basis of an apparently simple simile which closely probed proves more extremely profound. Though analogy is not proof and God is known to be incomparable, poets, theologians and philosophers very often resort to the strategy of proof by analogy where the Supreme Being is concerned. Here Valluvar's use of a simile that is strikingly original and astoundingly appropriate has floored many a translator. These are the translations. The first one is by G.U. Pope. A as its first of letters, every speech maintains the primal duty is first through all the world's domains. A translation by B.V.S. Iyer. A is the starting point of the world of sound, even so in the great original, the starting point of all that exists. Translation by Balasubramanian. As alpha is of all the letters first and source of birth, so God primeval is alone the source of all this earth. Translation by Vanmiganathan. Alphabets all have A as their origin. The world has the primordial God as its origin. Sundaram's translation. A begins the alphabet and God primordial the world. Such translations are easily misleading, since any reader not acquainted with the Tamil would conclude that the English alphabet A or the Greek alphabet alpha is the first of Tamil letters. Also, the fact that the vowel A is the first in every alphabet may not be driven home by these renderings. It is F.W. Ellis who manages it beautifully, though at the cost of brevity and even fidelity. His translation reads, as ranked in every alphabet, the first, the selfsame vowel stands, so in all worlds the eternal God. And then he adds the following explanation. The first of our vowels, when pronounced short, is here intended, which is actually the first letter in all alphabets, and the meaning of the distinct, therefore, is that as this letter, however varying in form, is the first in all alphabets, so the same deity, however varying in his energies and attributes, governs all nature. Though F.W. Ellis has great admiration for his predecessor Beskey, whose prose and poetic writings are often cited, he does not hesitate to draw our attention to the pitfalls which the Catholic priest could not avoid in his famous Latin translation. While translating the couplet, தனக்குவமை இல்லாதான் தாழ் சேர்ந்தார்க்கு அல்லால் மனக்கவலை மாற்றல் அரிது. His translation, the anxious mind against corroding thought no refuge hath, save at the sacred feet of him to whom no likeness is. Eliot finds fault with Beskey's Latin commentary, which fails to take note that God has neither an equal nor an object for comparison. Commenting on the title Aravali Andanan, Ellis observes that Beskey assigns it to the Supreme Being in his Chaduragaradi, while all the other Tamil dictionaries give it to Arugan, the Jain god. While the Tamil translators like Vanmiganathan and P.S. Sundaram have to depend upon B.M. Gopalakrishnamacharya for their understanding of Parimelalazhagar's commentary in Tamil and make an open confession to this effect. The British-born Ellis of the Madras Civil Service has gone to great pains to master the foreign language in such a way that he can comprehend the original commentary and reflect upon it authoritatively. Where required, Ellis can give a superb English rendering of the commentator's complex prose too. Ellis's exquisite prose version of Parimelalazhagar's interpretation of the first Kural of Neethar Perumai is as follows. This is how he translates Parimelalazhagar's interpretation. A strict adherence to the proper rule is true devotion. By thus adhering to the rules appropriate to their respective tribes or states, virtue increaseth. By the increase of virtue, sin is abated. By the abatement of sin, ignorance is destroyed. By the destruction of ignorance, the difference between time and eternity is known, and reflection on the difference and reflection on the evils of mortal birth and disgust at the pleasures enjoyed in transient succession in this world and in the heaven of inferior deities arises. By reflecting on these, the desire of eternal beatitude is produced. From this proceeds the abandonment of the fruitless works which are the cause of mortal birth, and the practice of meditation. And from meditation, true knowledge, the destruction of that which is external as mine and of that which is internal as I then ceases, and these two affections, and thus renounced with abhorrence, it is thus to be explained. This is his translation of Parimelalazhagar's prose. Never intimidated by Parimelalazhagar's language or his display of scholarship or his awesome reputation as a commentator, Ellis can correct him when he goes wrong. There are numerous passages in the course of his long, leisurely but well researched commentary where Ellis makes it evident that his understanding of Valluvar's vision and philosophy of life is as good as, if not better than, that of any Tamil scholar or translator. The salient features of not only Valluvam but of other Indian systems of philosophy have also been minutely probed and justly assessed by Ellis. While distinguishing between Visishtadvaita and Advaita, Ellis shrewdly remarks that the metaphysics of these sects are as opposite as those of Priestley and Berkeley, but however different in their philosophical opinions, their religious belief and practice, which they both derive from the Veda, is nearly the same. Examining Parimelalazhagar's exposition of the philosophy of the Sankhya school, which makes nature the cause of nature, Ellis explains the differences between Kapila and Patanjali and concludes that the whole reasoning of both the schools rests on the assumption that matter is essentially homogeneous and that there is a substance into which all other substances are resolvable. Quoting the best stanzas from Sivavakyam that embody the essence of Sivavakya's worldview, Ellis writes that Sivavakya is one that eschews alike the figurative mythology of the Puranas and the mystical philosophy of the Upanishads and Agamas. denies the efficacy of all religious ceremonies, whether prescribed by the Smritis or invented in more recent times, derides the notion that the Almighty could have made an inherent difference in His creatures, and finally, with the doctrine of metempsychosis, rejects most of the dogmas believed by the various sects of Hindus. The subtleties of Tamil concepts and the nuances of meanings of Tamil words are always within the grasp of the capacious mind of Ellis. Translating aram as virtue, he says that the Tamil word possesses great latitude of meaning. It signifies virtue generally, moral right as opposed to wrong, religious righteousness and the merit resulting from religious acts, the positive rights of things and persons as ordained by law or established by custom, and the maintenance of such rights or justice. And lastly, charity in the abstract and uncharitable acts of every description. The word ஆகுலம் in the குறள், மனத்துக்கண் மாசிலன் ஆதல் அனைத்து அரண் ஆகுல நீர பிற, is translated by him as evanescent sound. Defending his rendering, he adds that though the word signifies literally a loud turbulent noise, it may be metaphorically rendered ostentation, hypocrisy, and that though Parimelazhagar paraphrases it by Aravaram, which signifies literally the confused clamour arising from a mob, it is often synonymous with idambam, the term commonly used to express pomposity, ostentation and hypocrisy. Ellis's comment on the term ilvazhkai is again insightful in his introduction to the chapter on domestic life. Ill, literally a house, signifies here the domestic state, and வாழ்தல், to live, not merely to exist but to enjoy life, to prosper, to flourish. The direct meaning of ilvazhkai, therefore, is the enjoyment of domestic life, but it is generally used in this chapter for the duties of domestic life. True enjoyment in any state consisting in the correct discharge of the duties of it.